I'm curious if you're comfortable kind of going a little deeper into what you learned from the mistakes or the failures. Like, how did you know that you had failed? What was your benchmark for that? Did you get direct feedback? Did you just know it internally? Like, how did you become aware of that?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the times I hold myself to a very high standard.
Mhm.
And that unfortunately would, you know, translate to holding people to the same standard, which is not fair
Mhm.
because that's an unrealistic expectation. And I
Mhm.
think the times that I really found that I can recognize I was failing are it's tough for people to come to you and say, hey, you're doing this wrong, or we want to provide you feedback. So they didn't. So
Mhm.
when I really got the punch to the face is when we did surveys and
Mhm.
360 reviews
Mhm.
and seeing some of the feedback on that and saying, ouch, okay, that hurts. And I originally took it very personal. I said, all right, maybe I'm not right for this job. Then I
Mhm.
questioned my position and said, maybe it's time to move on
Mhm.
because I'm just not respected. They don't like me. They don't like my leadership style, whatever it may be. And after that, I said, wait, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing is for the better, but I'm going to learn from this. And I got to listen to what my team is saying and try to take that information and learn from it.
Mhm.
And none of this happens overnight. It doesn't happen in a week, a month, a year. It takes years of development to do.
Yeah.
And so I have to think that the team had the courage to voice these things, no matter how much it hurt me. It's something I needed to hear,
Mhm.
and I continue to accept that. And at the end of the day, people are still going to be um, not readily willing to say to the chief, "Hey, wow, that was bad." And I'm trying to set that environment where they can feel comfortable doing that because we're all growing and we're all learning, and I'm
Mhm.
learning every single day. So I think
Mhm.
that's the main driving point is hearing um, anonymous feedback, surveys, and going from that point forward.
Mhm. Yeah, anonymous feedback, I think, creates safety enough for people to really tell you what they're thinking. I went through the same process myself with the feedback from the conference. So of just, yeah,
Yeah.
hearing people's opinions and yeah, how do you, I'm curious, kind of moving forward and, post after your diagnosis with MS and kind of did that change your leadership style at all? Like, how did that even bring you into a new place as a chief? Like, how did those two things interplay, the role and then MS?
Yeah. So I think, during when I when I got diagnosed with MS, I was in a completely different place in my life.
Mhm.
I was under an immense amount of stress, and I always told people and told myself that I was sacrificing a lot of my life for the greater mission of the organization. And I
Mhm.
was I was putting in way too much work. And I neglected myself with self-care, self-love, and I was an unhappy person, very much so. And I said, but I'm doing it to help build this organization that's in a major transition from volunteer to a combination department.
Mhm.
And so finally, when I started having my first symptoms rise, at that point I was 298 pounds, heaviest I've ever been in my life.
Mhm.
And nobody came to me and said, hey, Rob, wow, you're getting pretty heavy. Like, are you okay? I didn't get check-ins. I didn't, and that comes back to the statement my dad told me when I was young. Nobody gives a shit about you. Be looking out for yourself. But I know people, do care. So anyhow,
Mhm.
um, when that happened, I went through a very dark time of when I started losing vision in my left eye, got
Mhm.
very scared, and I had the help of dear friends who helped get me into a neurologist in a quick manner. And I had a decision to make. I said, am I going to let this disease define who I am? Or am
Mhm.
I going to say, nope, absolutely not. It's time for a change. I want to I want to live a fruitful life. I want to have fulfillment, and I want to better myself. It's time to get back to work, go back to my core values, and take action. So I'm very fortunate in the fact that I had this to fall back on. And I recognize how important it was to start focusing on me first, because I always put everybody else ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as I started working on that skill again, that has migrated into my leadership style and
Mm-hmm.
understanding that, hey, I'm making myself a better person to live a better life of what I want. And that will now translate into understanding human nature. And not everybody should have to live up to what I expect or how I live. And that prompted me to start reading a lot more
Mm-hmm.
content, learning, studying, and really developing those leadership skills. So, all in all, I can say my MS was a gift
Mm-hmm.
that got me back in physical health, spiritual health, improved my mental health, which
Mm-hmm.
then allowed me to be a better leader to the organization.
The before and after pictures that you put on your website, I mean, it's marked. Like you don't even look like the same person, Rob. Like honestly, it's
Yeah.
kind of crazy. So um yeah, and I do find one thing Sendelbach said, Chief Sendelbach of Loveland said in one of our interviews of that, it was important to him, physical fitness, that he be able to do what everybody else in the line was doing. And I think um, kind of what I've seen, the trends of this transition of kind of the old school sitting behind the desk kind of style of chiefing is, yeah, going out. And I love that you're an example of that, of like, you know, having that physical fitness element, and it makes you more relatable as a leader, right? It does that humility comes in of, I'm taking care of myself just as much as everybody else is as well. Um, and it is amazing to me. I think the paradox of self-care is the more you look out for yourself, the better you are able to look out for others. Like it's kind of crazy because I think many of us go into this profession with the opposite of like, the more I give, the more I give. And that I think is one of the bigger mindset shifts that we're collectively making as first responders. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you want to check out Rob's photos, I will link his website below so you can check it out. Um, which content, you mentioned consuming a lot of content about personal growth. What philosophies, or like maybe an author, who were you really drawn to that really rang true to you when you were kind of going through this transition?
Yeah. So originally, I immediately kind of went to podcasts, and I think it resonated with me because I was listening to the moments I was in my darkest time, and that really helped kind of get me through and show me the light. And that was just Motivation Daily by Motiversity, and there's just a whole slew of content on there. As far as reading, some of the books I'd hired a leadership coach for myself originally, and then brought into the organization. So
Mm-hmm.
he started making recommendations for books. He goes, Rob, I want you to read this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I started reading his content. I'm like, oh, I like this. So the first one he told me to read was Carol Dweck's Mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I'm like, the light bulb went off. I said,
Mm-hmm.
this is amazing. And from there, it just kind of, you know, had me look into additional authors of similar style books. So from Stoicism, Ryan Holiday, to of course reading, Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink, to listen to Les Brown, Tony Robbins. There's a ton of authors, and I just got done reading a book by Emily Esfahani Smith called The Power of Meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And what a phenomenal read.
Mm-hmm.
It was remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
And it was there was Jim Rohn. There's just a lot, and it's all leadership style, personal growth type material. And back in the day, I would read a little bit here and there, and some nonfiction, some fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I've become pretty obsessed with just constantly educating and putting more knowledge in my brain, because there's so much out there that we're just not utilizing because it's reading. And I would say and challenge anybody who's like, I don't like reading. Do Audible, audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of methods to get this information,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes you appreciate what you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. There's so much to consume, and then the actual, application, uh kind of we circle back to taking action. And I when I was looking over your website, I was really curious because you mentioned, your transformation in the last couple of years was both physical, mental, and spiritual. And I feel like spiritual, we don't talk too much about spirituality in the fire service, but can you kind of just give us a glimpse of the spiritual transformation you had moving through all this, and what you experienced
Yeah,
in that way?
yeah, for sure. So I think you know Arthur C. Brooks just wrote a book recently with Oprah Winfrey,
Mm-hmm.
and they talk about happiness. And what I can say is I don't chase happiness personally. I chase fulfillment in my life. At the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, I want to be known for somebody that made a positive impact in the world through mentorship, being a good person, and leaving that behind. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
my dad was a Buddhist and
Mm-hmm.
practiced Zen Buddhism, and it's always been kind of a part of our family. But going back to that book, they talk about the four F's of family, faith, friends, and finance.
Mm-hmm.
And managing those four are so important to kind of living that fulfilled life. So when I talk about spirituality, I think it's so critical that we believe in something, right? It doesn't have to be a type of religion, just believe in something. Understanding that us as humans, we're this big in comparison to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And to say that there's nothing else out there would be silly, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can actually believe in something and have faith, that gives you this mind, body, spirit connection that helps you live the best life you want to live.
Mm-hmm.
And you might not think that, all right, well, if I meditate every day for 5 minutes, is that really going to improve the quality of my life? And I can say, in my case, absolutely. You learn techniques on just basic meditation and finding a place of calmness and peace, and it sets your day up for success. So when I think of spirituality, I refer back to Buddhism for me, and I practice meditation styles from Zen, Buddhism to movement meditation. So I'm really practicing mindfulness. When I'm out doing stuff, walking, I'm really hyper focused on each singular step that I take. I'm
Mm-hmm.
focused on the breath that I'm breathing in and breathing out.
Mm-hmm.
And these are skills that we develop over time. And it really can bring you back to center. And especially, this is so critical because when you get in a moment of stress, you can refer back to these skills to kind of bring you back and bring out that spiritual nature to bring you back to center. And we live in such a stressful environment. And one of the things that I talk about and try to get the message across is this connection between stress and disease. We live such stressful lives, and there is data and research to back it up that there's a connection there. And there's also the connection between having spirituality and actually being able to affect how your body heals itself. So when you talk about neuroplasticity, epigenetics, and connecting that to mind body connection, we are very powerful as humans if we can implement those practices.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I love it. Presence. Yeah, very important skill because I find when I'm most stressed out, it's because I'm either projecting a doomsday scenario or I'm in the past ruminating about something that has already gone, and I'm not really there in the moment. The moment where all the power is right now. Um, but I think that idea of transcendence. Um, I remember my first like I think firefighters a little bit, we chase that feeling, because I remember my first day in a burn building with watching the flames like roll over your head for the first time. Like that's a transcendent experience. At least it was for me. And I think sometimes one of my theories is that when we seek that, and through this work, like we want to be, the essence of heroism is kind of losing yourself to just pure service. Yeah, you dissolve into just being an agent of helping someone else, and it doesn't matter what's happening to you or your body. And so I agree that I think reconnecting to more transcendent experiences is how we then stay balanced and stay focused and stay doing the work when it's not transcendent, when it's crummy, when it's boring,
Right.
So yeah, I'm curious, what do you have any memories of a couple of transcendent experiences in your fire service career or as an EMS provider where you were just, you know, any
Yeah, there was
that.
yeah, early on in my career, I was blessed with amazing mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helped me out. But I can always revert back to one specific case, and I won't go into too much detail about it, but it was very sad. And it was one of these patients that we would see repeatedly and said, wow, the system's broken, healthcare's broken. And keep in mind, this was 22 years ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I found the opportunity, said, I can be impactful. It's not my job just to show up, treat the patient, transport or leave, whatever it is. Let's truly serve and look out for these patients. So we took it upon ourselves to actually create solutions so that hopefully we wouldn't have to see the patient again in this type of scenario in a medical emergency. And during that time, it's selfish in a sense because it brings self gratification for doing something good like that. But I think just to see the impact on what the outcome is of service and really going above and beyond your normal job duties are
Mm-hmm.
shows you the importance of connecting with humanity and connecting with people. And they are so grateful for the efforts that you put in, even though we all know we work in a very thankless job. And when those moments happen and you feel it in your heart and it tugs at those heartstrings, that's when you know I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. It feels good. And I
Mm-hmm.
think with the amount of negativity and cultural issues and society and life that's happening now, we're losing sight of that. And that's not to say it doesn't happen. So, of course, it happens. But we're so distracted by external forces. And I would challenge a lot of people that we need a paradigm shift. We need to change and reconnect with humanity, no matter the circumstance, because it's I don't like to some extent where it's going, personally, but we can change it. But it's going to take a lot of effort and commitment from people, and for us as being in positions of public trust, God, we can do a lot. We can do a lot, and we can be great, and everybody's capable of it. And once we start all working on ourselves to be the best version of ourselves, we can do that, and that's gonna be seen by others.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. We're constantly, when you're in uniform, I think you are in the spotlight. Like you always have the opportunity to step up and do things like that. I'm always amazed. I'm usually at the grocery store when the crew is at the grocery store, and I just how they just observing them. I always just observe them. Sometimes I give them a compliment on their mustaches or whatever. but
You're right.
but I'm always curious to see how they act. Like, because people they're watching us, and as first responders, always you're always being seen. And so yeah, I think that I love that, of being able to be an example and to set the bar a little higher and to go that little extra step. And sometimes it can be really simple, just a simple act of kindness. But I want to kind of bring this all together. And Rob, as we kind of wrap things up, what would you recommend to our viewers today if they kind of wanted to go deeper into some of the things we talked about? What one tool, resource, book, because we mentioned a lot, but which one would you really point them towards?
Yeah, so I want to, before I get into that real quick, so talk a little about purpose, and I don't want to use these words as buzzwords.
Mm-hmm.
And for those listening, you know, the question you have to ask yourself is, who are you and why are you here on this planet, right? A majority of the population don't understand this or don't know it, and they'll never figure it out. That is just the reality of it. But you have an opportunity, and everybody's capable of it. The other part is time is our most precious commodity. How much time do we waste doing senseless things, right? If you want to do great things and be great and leave your impact on this world, keep track of your time. So when I talk about purpose, there's a list of things real quick. Give back to the community. Delayed gratification leads to long-term fulfillment. Okay. Have a personal vision statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Show gratitude every day. Wake
Mm-hmm.
up, start your day with positive thoughts. You
Mm-hmm.
have to find a way to transform your pain into purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Pain and suffering is a part of life. There's no way around that. And I can say everything that happens in our life that's difficult, it's just life. We can't control that, but we can learn from it and we can grow from it. Identify what your passions and your interests are. You have to surround yourself by quality people who support you, who are your greatest cheerleaders. All the other people that are negative in your life, maybe you have to separate from them. And that's a hard thing to do. But you have to surround yourself by quality people. It'll make your life exponentially better, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to read a lot. You have to educate. Join some sort of cause. It's all about giving more, giving more, giving more. So whatever that may be, uh, give something to the community. It feels good. It makes you feel good. And then lastly, have self-care. So I think, closing that up, one of the resources, I'm so passionate about talking about this, and I can say I'm proud of where I've come. I would offer myself to, have a coaching session with anybody and anybody that might want to take care of it and kind of dive deeper into this and spend some one-on-one time with me via phone, via Zoom, whatever it may be. What I will say is this most recent book that I did read, The Power of Meaning, was
Mm-hmm.
very impactful. If I had to give one book right now, I have a lot of books, and maybe we could follow up after this with a list of ones that I find are very beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
I think uh, I know you said give one, and I want to give more, but I'll give one. Is I think The Power of Meaning would be the one. Emily Esfahani Smith right now.
Awesome. Yeah,
And
we'll link that below for everyone that's watching this. We'll put that below and the best way to get in contact with Rob for a chat if you wanted to chat more about some of the things that he talked about today. Any closing thoughts? But I appreciate you keeping it down to
yeah,
one. I loved
of
your
course.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, so remember that the truest sense of purpose is often found not in the grand gestures, but in the quiet moments of self-reflection and the small victories won within the confines of your own mind. We're all in this together. As hard as it may be, every time you wake up in the morning, the world is giving you another opportunity to heal, another opportunity to seek fulfillment, another opportunity to be great. So I ask you this: how do you want to be remembered? What is your why? You have it within you. You can now discover it. I believe in you. Work hard, have discipline, have consistency, get after it. Live life.
I love it. I love you're like my dad right now. I'm like, yes, dad. It's good life advice.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
so
for
welcome.
that kind moment of fathering all of us because we need to hear it. We need to hear it over and over again so that we can then act on it. So thank you again for joining us today, Rob. I've really enjoyed our chat. And again, if you will find all of the resources that we mentioned today below the video. And a big thank you to everyone who's watching. Thank you for taking the time to listen to content that pertains to your own wellness and your personal growth. And as always, my door is open to you as well. If you want to reach out and provide feedback at info@firepowerx.com, I'm happy to follow up with you if you have any follow-up questions about today's webinar. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in our next session. Bye, everyone.